Okay.
You're going to look fabulous.
Okay. Howdy.
I am so glad you are here. Liz with Megas Books with our founder, Roger Williamson. So, welcome everybody. What am I wearing today? I know. We're wondering. Look at the pretty things. This is from Tracy's collection. This used to be at another shop, but when her shop shut down, she came in and she brought these with her. So this one's abalone shell, gorgeous. What's it used for? Abalone shell is all about the sea and therefore the subconscious and intuition and all of those wonderful psychic abilities that we like to work on and develop. So good one to remind yourself that you have those powers and that you can use them. Another one from her collection is this Thulite. Isn't that lovely? Such a pretty color. That pink color, that it's associated with love and compassion and just love for your fellow human. It's a beautiful, beautiful ring. I love the teardrop shape, especially right now. I love that beautiful color pink. And then from Sarah Cura, we have some imported rings. I think these are Sarah Cura's. Yeah, these are Sarah's. And these actually have rubies in them. You'll notice these are not the clearest rubies in the world. These are not the highest level of rubies in the world, but it's a $14 ring. Get yourself some rubies for $14. I think that's a good deal. And why do you want to wear rubies? Well, if it's on your left hand, which this happens to be my left hand, it's about bringing blessings into your life. So there's a good reason to have a look at this. And this one, she's got a few other styles and different types, including some like huge honking rings that are just sort of amazing. One doesn't even fit my thumb, but the ring itself, the face is huge and has a giant turquoise in the middle. Absolutely gorgeous. What am I drinking? What are we drinking today? Well, I got as close to the 4 Gentlemen's decoction as I could from Chinese medicine. So I've got 3 of those ingredients that I stuffed in here. So that's the Eleuthero, it's my fave. A little ginseng. Why? Woke up too early. I'm going to be tired. And some, not the Atractylodes, because that's the one I'm out of. The Astragalus. And some lemon balm, because I wanted it. That's why. That's the whole reason why. And what have we got to show off today? Well, I may have shown them off recently, but I've been doing a series because we were able to get back in a whole bunch of figure candles. So we've got black, red, white, pink, and purple. And if you're curious about figure candles and you want to know more, I'm running through each of the colors on our Magical Tuesdays little mini cast. So you get 4 or 5 minutes on why figure candles, how to use figure candles, and why that color. So we've done pink and we've done purple so far. So look forward to red, white, and black coming up soon. What else have we gotten in, or things I want to show off? Things we found as we unpacked. Yay for unpacking in our new location. These beautiful dream pillows by Siren's Allure. This is a relatively new consignee with us. They do a wide variety of products. I even have some of their journals that I'll show you in a second. But I love their dream pillows because they've got a little pocket with a little button on it. So you can charge a stone or a little bag of herbs, stuff it in there. I would lay that down and put my head on the other side of the pillow because I don't want a button in my ear. But you can absolutely enhance the dream pillow with whatever you like in the little pocket. And I think that's genius design work. So it comes in things that range from what I would call kind of cute to, a little more otherworldly and beautiful. Great designs, great patterns, great fabrics. Another thing that we have more of out there, and I only brought a few to show you, are some of the fabulous altar cloths that we carry. A whole bunch of those have now emerged from the depths. So we've had them, we've carried them before, but they've only just resurfaced for us. There's about 5 of them here, but there's dozens. There's a couple dozen, I think, out on the floor. And then I was able to find some decently priced journals. So I wanted to show those guys off. You've got your Tree of Life design, your Buddha design, the all-knowing, all-seeing eye, and the triangle. Why? Because it's America.
Good enough.
So everybody thinks of it. It's all my money. Yes, it is, for real good reasons. And the lovely Hamsa. So these guys they're $19.95. But given the price of journals that I am seeing out there right now, I was so happy to find them. So if you're looking for a nice blank journal, these are great. They've got a real easy fasten and some nice paper to write on, honestly. It's not the smoothest paper in the world. I kind of like that. I like that there's a little resistance in the page, especially if you're going to draw in it instead of write in it. But either way, I love that stuff. And then I promised that other Sirens Allure product, which is the journals. So they personalize the journals, creature of the night, witch service, spells and potions. There's all kinds of things. My favorite right now is I have a Crystal for that. Why? Because Crystal Well comes in and shops with us. And that's just fun for her and I. But that's what's new. That's what's happening. Events coming up. Cruise through those real quick. And then we'll get to talking about your fabulous origins and why this place exists. So what's going on? Reiki 1 is coming up on the 17th this month. And there will be, on the following Sunday, the 24th, there'll be a Reiki share in the first part of the day. And then Palmistry 101, that's right, Chris is coming back. I know some of you guys have been just jonesing for Chris to come back. He'll be doing palm readings that day, as well as his Palmistry 101 class. And if you've had that class once before, remember, there's 3 in the series, and you can jump into any one of them. Each one is a self-contained unit. Doesn't matter what order you take them in. They don't build on each other, but they're incredibly informative. I know I have personal friends who have taken his classes twice because that's how information-packed they are and how enthusiastic he is about sharing really his true passion in life, which is palmistry. It's highly recommended. Astrology classes will be starting up soon, by the way, and chaos magic and Cyprian the Mage classes are starting up soon. So look for those to be happening. Next month, Herbalism Year 3 will be on Wednesdays. And if you're interested in starting that journey, Year 1 will be Tuesday evening. So come join us. I promise it will be a fantastic time. That's events. Oh, and how could I forget? Thomas Mooneagle is coming. He wrote a book called Drumming Down the Runes. It's his latest book. He's got a couple out there, but he'll be doing a book signing on the 29th and then a workshop on the 30th. It's an all-day workshop, so it's $135 if you're interested, but really looking forward to seeing him come in town, and you can look for his interview here next week. Thomas Mooneagle, again, is his name. You can find his website, thomasmooneagle.com. You can find his books on Amazon and other locations, and we'll have them while he's here as well, and we'll get them going for you soon. But in the meantime, hello.
Good morning.
So let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
How did you get into this weird world?
Well, let me think. Well, really, I wrote a book in about 1987 called The Solid Night. And when I moved to Minneapolis in 1985 from the old country, I had this huge occult library I brought with me, you see. And so thinking about it and trying to get more exposure for the book, I put this mail order catalog together, which in those days, the only places you could really advertise were in magazines, etc., you know. So I started running some ads in there, advertising this occult metaphysical catalog for $2, and all of a sudden I started getting requests for it, so I thought I should probably put one together. So so I cataloged this huge occult library I brought over with me, and of course I put ads and flyers for my Sun at Night book in there, and so I started selling those, and then this was reasonably successful, and I got to network with other people around the country who either had stores or were just doing mail order, you see. And I'm thinking, well, you know, God, if I had a store, I could be doing this all day, every day, which didn't seem too bad an idea. It's, you know, I did have doubts after I started it, but look at that. And so,
but you don't know what you're doing when you get into it.
No, you don't.
The fun parts that you know.
Right. And of course, I've never done a business plan in my life. Which I think is, you know, being a 60s person, I don't think that's uncommon it's sort of just wing it and see what happens. And so I'd always liked Dinkytown, and because it reminded me of London in the 60s. And so I drive through there, and all of a sudden I saw this sign up, and it had retail space for rent with a phone number. So I thought, I'll just, and I should add, I did have a full-time job in corporate America while this was going on. And so I thought, I'll just call this number, see what the story is. And so this guy met me down there. He showed me this space. It was 500 square feet,
Teeny tiny space.
So yeah, it wasn't much bigger than
this classroom.
Here, but it seemed like a big deal at the time. The next thing I did, I couldn't seem to stop it. The next thing I seem to remember is that I was paying rent for this place. And so my son was over visiting me from England, and so he helped me, and his buddy that lived over here. They helped me for a month move this store in there.
Nice.
But unfortunately, he had to go back before I was able to open it, which was the 2nd of September, I believe. And so,
what year?
This would have been 1992.
All right.
Yeah, I was a young man then. And so it was a really sort of, Dinkytown was a really bohemian sort of attitude there.
Yeah.
You had the Dinky Deli just across the alley from us, because this was right at the back of Dinky. So if you're looking at Dinky, you got the Chinese restaurant, Shuang Cheng, on the left, and you go down this corridor, and we were right at the end on the left.
Yeah.
And so the Dinky Deli was on the right, and that's where all these folks, the ex-hippies and everything, and revolutionaries would always go and sit all day in there. And in fact, one of the folks in that group was one of the creators of Dungeons and Dragons, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't really learn that till later. But then everything else was, a little bit more off tilt. There's a great jeweler down there.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, then you had a used book dealer upstairs.
Yeah.
There was a jeweler above him. And we had the Chinese restaurant at the front. And then on the other side of it, businesses seemed to go in there. I think initially it was like a travel agent.
Yes,
I don't
remember
think we have
travel.
them anymore, do we?
I was in college, so I was there in that first year you guys opened.
Mm-hmm.
Had nothing to do with the store, just wandered in, and you recommended a very slender volume on the biography of John Dee.
Okay.
That's what you had me buy.
Did I
Yes,
really?
you did.
Okay. Did it have pictures?
Very few, but there were some.
Okay.
I have to admit, there were some drawings in there.
Okay.
So
Okay. And so there was that travel agent down there. Then I forget what else came in. Oh, and then eventually we had a chiropractor in there, and then we had the shoe mender in there. So, and outside, Dinkytown in those days was great. There was it was really diverse. We had a baker down there. Of course, we don't have bakers in America anymore, do we? Thanks to convenience, we can't have them. But
there was a great range of restaurants.
Yes.
There was, and not too many, frankly. You could get used clothes.
Oh yeah,
There's
the
equivalent of ragstock or a ragstock down there.
Yeah, I come in the mornings. I could smell all this, baking.
All the
from
baking,
bakery. It was great, and there was a camera store down there. There were about 3 record stores.
Mm-hmm.
There must have been about 1, 2, 3, probably about 4 book vendors down there who tended to be a little bit more old school. They didn't really look on Magus as really being a book vendor because, well, first of all, the subject matter was pretty restricted. It's mainly on occult, metaphysical, alternative material, and of course we sold incense and things like that, whereas a real bookstore didn't do things like that. I think that's changed a bit
they
now.
would only sell books,
exactly. So that's changed, and so so I opened there in '92, and it seemed to sort of get going pretty much straight away. It was a pretty unique place, I think, and I was very fortunate actually about the people that came to work for me. I remember one day I used to, because I had this full-time job at the time, which didn't last too long after I opened this place. But anyway, coming down there at 5 o'clock one night, and the store was locked, and young lady sitting out the front, and she'd said to me, she said, "Oh, right." She said, "What's wrong?" I said, "I haven't got a clue." And so I let us in, and she said, "What are you going to do?" So this person who's supposed to be working there all day hadn't even turned up. I hadn't heard from him. And so I said to her, "Well, what are you doing tomorrow?" She said, "Nothing." I said, "Well, you've got a job." So I employed her on the stop, gave her the key. I met her a couple of times because she had been a customer. This was probably it probably wasn't even 3 months after we'd opened. And so, and then she worked for me for a long time. But she was really interested in things like voodoo and Santeria and things like that, which, fitted in great for us. So like 1992, we're bringing in all these, saint candles, skull candles, gender candles, oils for, working on,
Judge Be For Me oil.
Right, exactly. Powders, everything you imagine. Coffin nails. They were always a big seller then, coffin nails. And then a lot of other things. And so it really gave a great vibe to the store. And I don't really think anybody else was covering the gamut of what we were doing. I mean, we certainly weren't sort of some kind of new age store.
No.
There had been a couple of those. I'm not sure if Sunlight was still going up on Lake Street at that time. But my drive was that, we should be there to, encourage people to empower themselves, whatever they believed in. I didn't really think there was any, that any one belief system was better than another, apart from your own. I was a great, advocate of that. But that you could encourage people to sort of come in and, and see what was available out there. And I had a lot of stuff in there. I mean, that wasn't really for sale because I felt it added the ambiance,
Well, back in that original spot, the fluorescent lights were covered with tapestries.
Yes.
It was like this slightly spooky ambiance.
Well, it was spook central down there, I think, and people still talk to me about it now, and it is funny. I mean, it was like I could be out somewhere and some guy that's now probably 30 or whatever said, "Oh, Rog, my mum used to bring me into your shop, when I was like this high, and so it's it was a great experience. Trying to make it work was challenging, and but it brought out a lot of things. It encouraged you. There was it's hard to believe now, but on Saturday afternoons in Minneapolis, a lot of shops were closed.
Yeah.
They closed at like noon or 1 o'clock, and so we had this long corridor. So me thinking, well, we don't want it going to waste. I would bring in these vendors, tarot readers, and whatever. We might have a musician playing down there. And so I'd put on these alternative art Saturday afternoon things down there to sort of get things going. I mean, it is hard to believe now that places would shut in America at that time. But anyway, so we did that. And this went on, probably I must have been in there for 5 years, I think.
Yeah. At least, yeah.
And so within 2 years, I was there full time, and I had another person come and work for me that knew about what at that time was like bulletin boards. I didn't know much about that at all. I had no idea what a bulletin board, unless it was something you used drawing pins on.
Yeah, this was the online. This is like early internet, BBS.
Yes.
Bulletin board stuff. Yeah.
So we still had the mail order going. And I rented another small office upstairs. This guy came to work for me. We seemed to know about this stuff and then got us on the internet. And so he worked upstairs, so we'd do that. And so we were doing that in conjunction with the store. Yeah.
Yeah. It was good. Eventually. And for those of you who are going, I don't remember. I've shopped at Megas for years. I don't remember fluorescent lights covered in tapestries. I don't remember. This is the first location of 3 in Dinkytown. We moved to the front of that Dinky Mall, and then we moved across the street. I started at the second location that was not your house. I always like to say it really started in your basement.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. I lived out in Plymouth at that time. Yeah.
And then it moved, and I was an early customer.
Right.
And then you moved to the front of that same little mall that's kind of built into that block. I got hired at that location.
Right.
And
but
then
you
were
also had your own business though too, didn't you?
Yes.
Remember? And so we were buying, you were buying your
buying our stuff.
herbal concoctions.
Yeah, I made massage oils and incense, and basically if it smelled good, we did it. And I really enjoyed that, but it got me into herbs, and that got me into the medicinal side of herbs. And I discovered I like making people feel healthy more than I like making them smell good. As important as it can be to smell good.
It can be, yeah.
Just really like being with somebody as they go through that healing journey and discover how good they can feel. I just think that's amazing. So that's why you no longer see my products in the store. I'm not saying I maybe won't start having them manufactured as part of this business one day, but it's not on the top of my hit parade, even though, and thank you, there have been several people who, when I did stop doing it, spent years saying, can I please get this one incense? Can I please get this one incense? It was always loose incense. Mm-hmm. It was always resin and herb and oil based. Really fun to make. I got to say, so much more fun than stick incense. I don't like making stick incense at all for a variety of reasons. I can tell you how to do that too. It's really easy. But I came on board at the second location. And so if you remember that one, that was on street level at the front of the Dinkeydale Mall. And then we went into the basement across the street. Right. Into what used to be the comic book store back when a lot of our fans loved coming here for the used CD store, Dreamhaven comic book store, and Megas Books. It was like the little trifecta of shopping for a lot of people.
Yeah, you had the record stores there as well. And what was it called? Ragstock. Yeah. That was there. There was a couple of other places too. I forget what they were now. Then the refinery moved in shortly after that. And things did change a bit when we moved down the front. There was a lot more visibility, which was both positive and negative, because often on a Saturday afternoon, we'd find people actually bust in from as far away as Chicago, I seem to remember, to demonstrate outside the store. Yep. And then also was the amount of calls I'd get in the middle of the night because somebody or folks had decided to throw rather large bricks through the front window. Yeah. So we had that happen on numerous occasions. But I mean, that's part of the fun of it. I mean, it really proves you're doing something right, I think, if there's something like that.
That much attention.
Yeah, but I always felt that we were a resource there for people, whatever they were interested. I mean, we stocked every belief system. I mean, some of them aren't my bag, but
and we still do. That's kind of the whole point of the store, is to help you explore the religious world and the religious universe that's out there. You might do a lot of exploring and decide the way your mama raised you was the best way for you, and it just reaffirms your own faith. Sure. But you've met that challenge of dealing with other ideas, so I think you're stronger then in what you believe. Or you do that exploration, you go, oh my gosh, I had no idea. I'm going to go that way and take a totally different direction than anybody could have ever seen before. And I think they're all valuable.
Yeah, I do. I think, a lot of folks aren't perhaps exposed to a lot of these materials out here, especially out here on the frontier in the 1980s and 1990s. True. I was in London in the 60s, and man, you could pretty much get exposed to anything that you would want, and I always felt that we were a resource there for people that were looking for something to guide their adventure through life. I'm a great believer, really, that we really know what we should be doing, but we refuse to listen to it for one reason or another, if that's not hearing what we want to hear. But as I say, that was the big thing. And, I had a lot of support from customers and in the area, and they've been with us for decades now. So people were very supportive, and I think I did hear it referred to as Spook Central. And so, I thought always felt that was a great compliment that we were obviously doing something right. And then once we'd moved down the front, of course, we had more space, so it was easier to do book signings or events there. We also, the only way I could rent that front space was if I rented the space above. So it was a big jump in rent and everything. And so that was a challenge. And so we would rent the space out. Although we do our mail order up there, etc., and other things, and doing herb kits and things up there we do. And we could rent it out to groups.
Yeah, there's a large room that we could rent out. That was useful.
One particular interesting one, as a matter of fact, was which was very memorable, was a young gentleman wanted to do a Keir Solomon working, I believe, and so I said, yeah, it's not a problem, so rented in the space up there. And within an hour, the jeweler that was like on the third floor, right at the top of Dinkeydale, came rushing into the store in a panic. And so I had to go up to to see what the hell was going on. And there was all this sage smoke billowing out from under the door. And
is something on fire?
So
are they having a giant pot party? Because a lot of people confuse those smells.
Right. I didn't know at this time that the business owner in there had actually opened the door and gone in and was confronted by this gentleman coming through the smoke in a total state of undress with a sword raised in his right hand, which I don't know why it caused him to panic. I can't imagine. But so that was one particular incident. And then, of course, we're able to do, a lot more book signings. And so
Raymond Buckland came. That was huge.
Ray Buckland.
Silver Ravenwolf.
Silver Ravenwolf.
Was huge.
She arrived late. And it was absolutely packed, and the line was down the street. It was
around the corner.
Yeah, it was right after her first book. And there were so many people in there, and it was getting a bit claustrophobic as people were trying to sort of get out for a bit of a break. More people squeezed in. So we had to stand her in the window to give us somewhere to speak from. So that was a great success, that one. Yeah.
I remember we talked about that because I was working for Roger. I was working for you at the time, and you'd said, "Oh, come on by. That's book signings from this time to this time." So I'm thinking, well, my husband and I will show up during the book signing, sometime in the middle. So we'd gone out to eat. We were driving through Dinkytown, and we see the line going out the door, around to the corner, and around the corner, and we're like, we're not going to get in if we that we did not. I did not see Silver Ravenwolf because there was no way.
It was a dramatic change because I have to say, prior to that, most book signings, if you were getting 5 or 6 people roll up, we're not talking sort of mainline bestsellers and things here. We're still talking. So things have a lot of changed, but I had the benefit. It was almost sort of like the perfect storm when we moved down at the front, because you had you had that Charmed thing on the TV.
Yeah.
You had Silver Ravenwolf's books, and what was the movie?
Bewitched.
The Craft.
The Craft.
The Craft. Yeah. And so, boy, it was, and then we were running these radio ads too, which people found rather amusing, I think. And so it was a perfect storm for us. It worked great. Yeah.
It's all part of the fun.
Yes, it is. But you always have your ups and downs, and you've got to be able to roll with them. And sometimes it seems like the sky's falling or whatever. But and so then we had the opportunity to. I think the lease was coming up. I think, and I don't know how much they wanted to increase it. Dinkytown by this time had changed quite a bit, and the bakery had gone, unfortunately, and a couple of other interesting places.
It hadn't gone corporate yet, but it was kind of losing that artsy bohemian, gloss that it had before.
Yeah,
starting to fade.
Of course, now it's total. It reminds me of looking at those pictures of post World War II Poland, of those long streets with boring square buildings rising up, and it's just, it's totally lost any charm that it had. And of course, then, great when the Loring pasta bar opened there too. It all added a bit of, atmosphere and ambiance. Unfortunately, that went. And Dreamhaven went. Just about everything else.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It was a good run while it lasted there.
Yes,
I liked being in Dinkytown when it worked for us, and because we stayed, you retired while we were still in Dinkytown.
Yes.
At that third location across the street.
That's right. Yeah. Well, you never really retire, do you?
That's true. That's true. Well, here I think it's a little bit like being a parent. You still want to check in, see how the grandkids are doing.
Yeah, well, it's such a great experience for me, and it was like that. And I really have a great affection for Magus and, all the people that have participated in it. Now, Liz has got to, so it's not like it's become some kind of corporate,
Yeah, it stayed a small business. Stayed a little mom and pop shop style place.
And it's great to see Liz here, making it work. And of course, there's always ups and downs. It doesn't matter how well you're doing. There's always
something that you can do better. There's something you want to pay more attention to, always. But I also wanted to get back to this whole thing was kicked off by The Sun at Night.
Yes.
Which is a beautiful novel. Yeah. And it was a skinny little black novel when I bought it. And about halfway through, I promise you, I totally hear him reading it to me. Your voice until somewhere in the middle. And then it's not anymore. And I don't know why. But if you can find that one, I think it's a very good read. But it's now this thick, and it's a limited edition hardcover.
Right. Right.
Because you went through and redid a bunch of it, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I added extra sections in there. It's sort of like, I'm not the most educated person in the world, especially when it comes to writing. Back in England, it was a sort of like, I don't know, it was probably about 7 or 8. I do remember every Friday morning, the first class was spelling. And every morning I'd have to hear, the spelling test. And no need to say who's bottom once again, but Roger. And I have to say that my spelling has not improved at all. And so I'm often stuck. Yeah. So
that's what technology's for now.
Yeah. I'll probably still spell it wrong on that as well. Yeah. So that's what was staying for me. Yeah. So I felt the same about that book. It wasn't meant to be autobiographical at all. But I think it turned out a bit that way. It's almost sort of like an exorcism for me after coming to America. It sort of got rid of all these things I felt about the old country and stuff. And so I turned it into this more, I suppose it ended up like a fictionalized biography at the end of the day. Yeah.
Well, I think it touches on some universal themes. So
Yeah.
I think it does go beyond it, but
yeah, because of my upbringing, my mum has always said, well, Roger, it's a bit lardy now. She said, well, Roger, there's no point you going to school because you're not going to learn anything useful there. However, the English government seems to have a bit of a different idea on that. So I did have to go. And I came back that first day, and I do remember my mum asking how it went. And I said, well, what does 4-lettered word mean? So basically everything she felt had been proved true. So so that's how things got started off. Yeah.
I can understand that. It's a frustrating situation.
Yeah.
It is. But was that the first thing you wrote that was published?
Yeah, well, after I left school, the last thing, most of us wanted was a job.
Yeah.
So we all pretty much just took up music. And so there's this big like blues, American music type revival in England. Eventually turned into this revival of English folk music. And so, I was involved in that. And that's all I'd ever done after I left school until I was like 30. And so, I'd written songs and stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I dabbled in it a bit, but I just got this urge to write that book, and got involved in it. And I was very interested. I discovered people like Alan Stivell, this Celtic French harp player, and he'd done this album Renaissance of the Celtic Harp, and it sounded, it began with the pounding of the surf and all of this, and it was great, things like that. And so that had sort of triggered it. And when I grew up in England, there weren't any freeways or anything. A lot of people didn't have cars, and it was right after World War II, so the place was pretty much a bomb site. But you could go out into the countryside, Stratford, Leamington, these sort of places, and my folks would take me to all these ancient sites and everything. Nice. So that was more the world I lived in, and I don't think I've ever really moved out of it, So yeah, so I was very fortunate in that respect. Yeah.
What was the next thing you wrote after?
I don't know. I did a little Labyrinth, Tales of a Rite of Passage. That's right. I did that. That was a limited edition. That was, and it was like a lot of, sort of like a compilation of thoughts, more short stories, some of which I incorporated in the this limited edition of The Sun at Night.
Nice.
And other bits and bobs, odd sort of sketches and everything. I remember it was printed in sepia ink on this parchment-like paper.
Nice.
And so that was limited. I think that was limited to about 200. The Sun at Night wasn't. I don't know how many copies of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then after that, there was another one on Lucifer's, a basic handbook of Luciferian sorcery, which is a bit like an overview of the light and dark side of the tree. The tree of life, Demolistic, yeah. And it just went on from there, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a few things you can pick up.
Oh yeah.
If you're interested.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's some art prints here as well of yours.
Yes,
some paintings that we still have under wraps at the moment. So there's a few good pieces to really sink your teeth into if you're interested.
I don't know how good they taste, but yeah.
I don't know that it actually eats the oil paintings, but that's okay.
Right.
That's okay.
Well, they are natural, right? Natural products, yeah.
And I know you've talked about them the same way you talked about The Sun at Night a few minutes ago, as paintings being the process of exorcising a demon, working through.
Well, I think art is more to do with therapy. I have to admit, it's funny when people think about makers, especially people who've never worked for themselves, often think that you're making a fortune out of it. And that was, it's never I never thought about the money really. It was like, as I said, I've never done a business plan. And I'm sure people would have said, I wouldn't even bother doing this, really. But that's never been my motivation. And for some reason, I'm one of these people that I seem to, sort of stumble through life and something fortunate seems to happen. So I've been blessed like that. But and I think, a lot, you go back to, my music days and stuff, people would drive all over England just to do a gig. They weren't even worried about being paid, and within 10 years that had all gone.
Yeah.
And money got involved. By about 1969, it was really all over, So that sort of, it was more that Beat Generation.
Find your passion.
Yeah.
Do the things you love.
And I felt the same about Magus, like doing that, certainly, I certainly didn't do it for the money. It was nice when you had some come in. It's not that strap, but that wasn't my drive.
Yeah. I think it's nice when that's the case. Wow.
But a lot of people don't know what they want to do, you see.
Yes.
You're not really given the opportunities, are you?
And you have to know that the thing exists to want to do it. So if you're not exposed to the option,
right?
How do you come up with the option? I think that's, and that gets back, the first person I ever read about who spoke about that eloquently, I thought, was Nichelle Nichols. Because she was going to quit her first big acting gig, which was on the original Star Trek series, until she was told two things. One, you get a ton of fan mail every week. They just don't let you see it.
Right.
And two, Martin Luther King Jr. said, keep doing this because this is the first time anyone Black has ever been on American television. with a future.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And it gave people the idea that, oh, I could be a scientist. Oh, I could I could become an astronaut. Oh, you don't know it exists. You can't do it. You have to see the options in front of you. I think that's one of the things about a shop like Megas Books, where there's multiple paths of spirituality at your fingertips that you can explore.
Sure.
And you don't have to follow anyone. You can pick and choose the pieces you like, or you can settle in on one particular path.
Right. I mean, we were very focused. It wasn't like we were selling, general books on knitting or something like that, unless it was to knit your altar cloth or something. And so I don't know how easy it would be to do it now. I don't know. But I think if there's a will, there's a way to do it. But, in those days, everything was like, opening up the frontier in a way. And I never thought too much of it. I lived in England. You had, the Atlantis bookshop. You had Watkins, a whole bunch of other things. It seemed like the norm. I had no idea about the animosity it raised among certain groups of people in this country, because it just seemed like mother's milk to me. And I couldn't be. It was a bit of a shock to me, really. But
especially since it's just ideas. It's just concepts and ways of playing with your inner being, your spirit. And there's no implicit threat into any of that, really. But we still sometimes we get a load of tourists in. I call them spiritual tourists who come in and they ask lots and lots of questions, and they have their little crosses on, and I show them the Christianity section. We still have one. We've always had one.
Sure, yeah.
But we have to wrap up. For Liz is out sick today. Not this Liz, the other Liz that works here is out sick. So to open the store, I have to close up here. So thanks all for watching and for liking and subscribing and doing all those magical things you do. Come visit us at 2520 Central Avenue Northeast in Minneapolis, or online at megasbooks.com. And hopefully we will see you all soon. Blessed be.
Bye.